Hi everybody, welcome again to another round of football betting predictions. Something a little bit different this week. Now the All-Ireland football in hurling is over for the year. We're moving over to the Premier League, which kicks off on Friday the 15th of August. So a lot of excitement and a lot of great games to look forward to. I'm joined again by Jack from the Betting Ireland team. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing good, Lewis. How are you keeping?
Really good, really excited about this weekend. I think the opening weekend's always interesting, and there's some very interesting games. I know we're going to work for a few. I was going to ask you first, what game stands out to you?
I think the biggest game of the weekend for me is definitely Man United versus Arsenal. I think it's Man United were poor last season, of course, but surely they can't be as poor again, finishing 15th. And I think Arsenal, they've signed that striker now that they've been after for a few years now, and they're ready to. After 3 years of finishing second, this is their best chance to finish first. So I think it's a very intriguing one that early in the season to have such a big game. Will both sides really be ready after the pre-season? That's what's going to be interesting for me with that one, I think.
I totally agree. I've seen a little bit of United in pre-season. I think they've improved slightly, which you'd expect from last year, but I still think they've got a big issue in the midfield, which I know they're looking to fix, but still some weaknesses there. I think Arsenal at times struggled to create chances last season. They've got a striker now, so they should be a bit more efficient in front of the goal. But I think I'm with you. I think early in the season, games like this, they tend to be really tight. I think it's one of those matches where neither team's going to want to lose on the opening day. I think they've both got sort of inconsistencies that they need to iron out, new players to bed in. So I was looking at the markets actually. I think this might be one of those rare games where you actually think a draw offers a bit of value.
Yeah, I have it as well. My tip was a draw as well. It is surprising to sort of, I wouldn't really go with a draw, especially in a game like this, but I think both sides, as you say, will not be at their best, and I think a draw is the way to go actually. I don't think we could see a winner in this game. I think it has to me as just like one of those games where maybe a 1-1 draw or something, just because especially United last season, for how poor they were, they did show up in the bigger games.
Absolutely.
And they do have that home advantage here, and the new season, the fans will have completely forgotten about last season.
Yeah.
And will be right up for this one, so I could see a draw. That's why I think maybe less risky would just be to go both to score, but I think if you're looking for a good odds, I'd go with the draw.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game, interestingly, towards the end of last season was at Old Trafford, and it was a 1-1 draw between these two teams. I think United were probably the better team, created more chances in the game, but it was a really tight, close game, and I expect it to be even tenser, given that it's the opening game. So I agree with you. You can get the draw at 3.50 with direction bet, which is good value. But like I said, there's always a little bit more value sometimes than just avoiding the draw and going for markets where there's similar parity. So both teams to score, you can get that at around 1.67. So I think both of those markets offer value depending on just how much risk you want to take.
I think now we'll focus on the first game of the season, the Friday night game, the champions Liverpool against Bournemouth. How do you see this one going?
Well, I actually think this is going to be a really exciting game. I think he has the potential to be a high-scoring game in the weekend. I saw some of Liverpool on Sunday against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield, and obviously the new guys in their team, Wirtz and TK, were really good. But I think if you watch them, I think you see Wirtz's position, how he plays. He's quite advanced on the pitch. And I think it leaves their midfield a little more open than last season. Also with the new fullback, sort of Frimpong played really high and wide, so they don't have one of those fullbacks tucking in like they had last season with Trent. So I think there's going to be a bit of a transition with Liverpool where they're a bit more open. So I think this is one of those games we'll see a lot of goals. I think both teams will find the net. The problem for Bournemouth, of course, is that 3 of their back 4 from last season have been sold. So I think they're going to need some time to transition and get new players in. So
yeah, I totally agree. I was looking at the over-under market here as well. Over 2.5 is sort of middling odds, about 1.35, 1.4. But as you say, I think maybe the way to go would be taking a big risk and go over 3.5.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like Liverpool there, as you said last week, gave away a lot of chances, and they created a lot of chances, especially in the first half. They looked really good. But then in the second half, I think Palace sort of took over a bit, and Liverpool did look a bit shaky at the back, as you said. They have a new 2 of their back 4 now is new. The midfield wasn't as strong there with Gravenberch not available, and he won't be available at the weekend either with suspension. So I think I could definitely see a good few goals in this game, and Liverpool will have enough to win. I think maybe 3-1. So I think over 3 to go. I think also the goal scorer market is interesting. Salah, this is his 9th season at Liverpool now, and in the previous 8 seasons he scored on the opening day all but once. So expect him to find the back net again, especially at Anfield. He's prolific at Anfield on the opening day. I think the last time they played at Anfield after winning the Premier League against Leeds, he scored a hat-trick. So he'll be ready to go again. I'm sure he'll have a point to prove now with them bringing in strikers and Vert and everything. He want to prove he's still the main man.
I agree. New contract as well, so he's had bumper contract, so he's going to want to justify that. I think he'll probably play a bit narrow as well with Frimpong playing quite high on the right, so I think he'll get more. He'll probably play within the width of the 18-yard box a bit more. But I totally agree. I picked all those markets. I think over 3.5 offers value. You can get on that around 2.05, which is good value. But I agree with you. Liverpool will have enough to win, but I think you could also, if you like to use a bet builder, you can also combine Liverpool and both teams to score. Because I do think we've touched on Liverpool's defence and Bournemouth's high press and the way in which they try and create chances. I think I can see them scoring Anfield. So I think you can get on that at 2.48 with Funbet. So it's a pretty good shout. So yeah, I think those are the markets to consider in that game.
Yeah. Another game now that's interesting, especially the way it went last week, is Chelsea versus Crystal Palace.
Yes.
Both sides have definitely come into the game full of confidence, and both have won a trophy recently, with Palace winning last week and Chelsea winning the Club World Cup. So this one, again, I think could be a high-scoring, both-to-score encounter.
I agree, although I think it's one of those games because of how Palace play, I think it'll be a really tight game. I think Palace play, they're very well organised under Glasner. I think they're really tough to break down, but what they've got in attack, they've got a lovely balance. If you think of, they've got a pace of Sarr, the skill of Eze and the strength of Mateta. So they're a real threat. They drew a lot of games this season, so they were tough to beat. So this is one of those games where I was turned off by the money line. I just think, I think Chelsea are probably more likely to win, but I could also see this match easily ending in a draw and Palace getting a point. So I think it's one of those games where I can see both teams scoring. Might be a market target. I can see it being a very tight match. Maybe go over or under, I don't know, because I think Palace are so good defensively. Chelsea are really good at controlling possession, but I don't know whether they'll break Palace down that easy. Palace probably won't get that many chances on the break, but they'll do well with the ones they have. But for me, the only real market I could consider in this game, I thought really stood out, was both teams to score, because I think they've both got goals in them.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think, Palace, we've seen it last weekend, how good they are on the counter-attack when they do get the chance. And as you mentioned, the pace of Sarr especially, he was outstanding at the weekend. And then Mateta would hold up the ball excellently, waiting for the others to come. So I think both to score was the market to go. And I was thinking, just if it was a bit more risky, market you mentioned earlier, the winning both to score. Just, I think Chelsea might nick it 2-1 maybe. So if you're looking for more odds, maybe if you're doing a builder or an accumulator or something, you just wanted to increase the odds slightly, maybe that could be a risky take there. I think it's around 3.1, 3.5 for Chelsea to win and both to score. So, but I think the safer option is definitely the both to score.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those games. It's so tough to call. Palace have proved it. If you think the last 2 competitive matches, they've won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, and they beat Man City and Liverpool. So, I mean, Chelsea were brilliant in the Club World Cup and the final against PSG, and I think it was impressive because Maresca changed his tactics a little bit. If you think of how he's played, he got a lot of criticism last season for being quite staid and the team not really being entertaining and not changing the tactics at all. But he was willing to switch it up and be a bit more direct. So I think it's a trend we're seeing a lot of managers go here. I think if they're that flexible again and they're willing to sort of get out Palace in different ways, I do think they'll edge you. But yeah, it just depends on what sort of risk you want to take. I definitely agree. Combine that with both teams to score if you fancy a bit of an extra flutter, but if not, stick to both teams to score, because I think that offers value. It's around 1.64, I think, which is pretty decent odds. So
now, a game that on paper looks like it's going to be an obvious winner, but the way they performed last year, it's hard to say. Spurs versus Burnley. Spurs finishing 17th. But they did go on to win the Europa League, so they'll have Champions League football this season and a new manager, Thomas Frank. So this is an interesting game as well for them.
Yeah, I think it's a deceptively difficult one to call, actually, because they lost Maddison as well, Spurs, to an ACL, which is a big blow for them because he gives them a lot of creativity. They've made some good signings though. I think Paulinho in the midfield is a good Thomas Frank player because his teams are typically industrious, run a lot. You think of the wingers as well. Tell signed permanently and they've brought in Kudus. So I think they'll have a lot of energy and pace. And I just think Burnley, although they spent over 100 mil, as a lot of promoted teams do now, and they've brought in a lot of players. I just don't think they've got the quality to live with Spurs, even though, given Spurs' form last season, like you say, it's a new season. There's new optimism, fans will forget, and I think they'll have too much for Burnley.
Yeah, I think so. Especially at home, it'll be difficult for Burnley going away from home. Their first game, they would have liked to take them to Turf Moor and make it a bit difficult for them. But it will make it difficult for a while. I think so. Scott Parker he's Premier League experience as a manager, although he's been, sacked the last time he was in there. But surely Spurs will come in this with a newfound optimism with Thomas Frank. He's a good manager. He knows how to get. He's a good record, especially at home last year with Brentford. Yeah. So hopefully for Spurs, he can bring that to them. I think Spurs to win is sort of a bit low.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be an overly high scoring game. So I was thinking maybe to combine it with over 1.5 Spurs to win and over 1.5 goals. I think it's about 1.6 in and around there. So it's not really, it's a game where the odds aren't overly good just because of how dominant they expect Spurs to be.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I think it is a difficult game because, like I said, Spurs have had issues and they had a mixed pre-season. Like I said, the loss of Maddison is a blow. But I think even if you look at Burnley's signings, like Kyle Walker, for example, on paper looks like a really good signing with his experience. But if you think of his last 6 months in the Premier League before he left Man City, he was having a really torrid time, struggling with the pace of the game. Looked like his legs had gone a little bit. So I think players like that will struggle against Spurs wide men and the pace. And we know how energetic Frank's teams are. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Spurs to win. I think 1.5 goals is a good bet. If you wanted to increase the risk slightly, you could go with over 2.5. You can get on that at 1.94. Obviously, Burnley have added Brozier up front from Chelsea and a couple of other additions in attack. So they might be able to nick a goal. Spurs aren't always the best defensively. So, and we know Frank's teams conceded a lot of goals as well. Brentford conceded a lot last season. So I think it might be, you might be able to, if you want to dial up the risk and return slightly, you could go for that. It's around 1.94 with Spurs to win and over 2.5. But I think any of those markets, again, it just depends on what sort of level of risk you're willing to take.
Yeah, exactly. So now finally we'll end our focus on sort of the big six sort of matches this weekend. A big one on the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. Man City travel away to Wolves. Yeah. Tricky one on paper for them, but Wolves have lost Matthias Cunha now, so they could find it tricky these opening few weeks of the season. Oh, how do you see this one going?
I think it's tough because I agree with you. Like they've lost Cunha and they've lost Adenori to City, of course, and the young lad Guedes, who I think was quite talented. So they've lost a few players, typical for clubs like that in pre-season. They always end up losing some of their best players and a lot of goals in the team. So I feel for Wolves a little bit. They will have that transitional period. I think for City, I'm not quite sure what to expect for them. I mean, they spent close to 400 million since January. So there's a lot of upheaval there. They've got an uncharacteristically big squad. Pep doesn't like having such a big group of players. I know they're, it looks like Grealish is going to Everton alone, and they're talking about Spurs potentially signing Savinho. So I'm not quite sure how City are going to line up. They've also picked up Jurgen Klopp's former assistant, Pep Linders, who is known for having a slightly different style of play to Pep's. He's now the assistant, but he prefers that high tempo, sort of high press football. So City could actually be a little bit different this season. I'm not quite sure what to expect from them. But I think Haaland's fit. Foden looked good in pre-season. And I think Reinders in midfield adds a bit of balance, something they've probably missed since Gundogan started to get a little bit older and lose his legs a little bit. So I think they'll have too much for Wolves. It's just a question of whether Wolves can score, which I think they might just be able to.
Yeah, especially at home, first day of the season, they'll want to get that goal. It's a tricky one whether to go with the win or the draw or whatever in this game. So I was kind of thinking of the goal score market, as you mentioned, Haaland. And it seems to be, like with Salah, when it comes to the open day of the season, Haaland seems to be the one to get City up and running. So I was nearly even thinking I think any time goal scorer he's around 1.8 or a bit lower, which I'm surprised is decent odds. To score first, he's good odds, about 3.54, and I think that'll be what I would be going with here. But then again, someone else scores, your bet could be over after 5 minutes. Yeah, but you might say a City win might be the way to go either. But as you say, I think Wolves might score, but I think City will have too much for them in the end.
I agree with you. I just think an interesting one on the goal scorer market. I think Strand Larsen for Wolves, he's actually one of the informed strikers. He scored 7 in his last 9 at the back end of last season. 14 in his debut season. And he's going to be the main focal point, I think, for Wolves. So he might be good value. I think Pep was touching on the fact that Rodri's not fully fit either after that. He was injured in the summer. So we saw how they fared without Rodri last season, especially defensively. So I think that you can also look at maybe over 2.5 goals at 1.61. Makes sense if you think City will win and Wolves will score. We're going to see over 2.5 goals. So I think that might be a good show. You can also get on both teams to find the net at 1.75 with Lunubet, which I think is actually quite a good show. I think that offers a little bit of value. But yeah, I think those in the goal scorer market's best bets here. I'd probably avoid backing City to win outright because the odds are too low. And like I said, I don't really know 100% what to expect from them at the start of this season.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree that Strand Larson bet seems very intriguing. He will be the main man now, especially without Cunha, so they'll have to look for him, and that could be, if he could get off running fairly quickly, that would ease a lot of Wolves fans' tension over losing some of their big players. So just to sum up with the few matches, which bet stands out for you as the one you would definitely go with for the weekend?
I think for me, if you're looking for things that are close to being as most likely to happen, I just think that Liverpool-Bournemouth game, opening game of the season, I think Liverpool over going edging that little bit more over 3.5 goals. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of chances in that game. Or like I say, Liverpool to win and both teams to score. I think those are two really good bets in that game. And I think you mentioned the Salah many top goal scorer line. I think that's also always appealing on the opening day.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that. And I might just the Man United Arsenal game as well, I think stands out to me. It's just either the draw or the both to score, however you're feeling. If you're feeling risky, go with the draw. If you're feeling safe, maybe the both to score. So I think that sums up our Premier League predictions for this weekend. I'm really looking forward to the Premier League being back. It's been a long summer without. We had the GA, but now the GA is over and we needed something to fill the void again. So we have the Premier League. So don't forget now to like and subscribe to the video, and tune in next time when we'll be going through the same Premier League predictions again. And check out bettingireland.ie for more predictions and tips. Thanks very much for your time, Lewis. It was great fun, great chat as usual.
Absolutely, Jax. Pleasure as always. Till next time.
See ya.